this is the second video related to my whole solo gaming theme, shall we put it. You know, a lot of people are talking about it lately. We're in a period where everybody's isolated, and so solo gaming is now a thing. But since my last top 10, there are so many games out there that can do solo modes that to do a top 10, I don't feel would be enough. There's just too many to talk about. And a lot of times I get asked, you know, does this work well solo? Does this work well solo? Solo. And it's kind of getting to the point where it's very tricky to do a top 10 solo games list. Maybe in the future I'll do it again, but I just think I only did it September 18. There's 10 very good solo games on there. That top 10 list I think is still suitable. Go check it out on my channel. It's about season 3 odd, I think it was when I did it. And, you know, like I say, we're talking a year and a half old. It's not that old. So maybe in the future I will rejuvenate it. But what I want to do this video is just talk about a ton of solo games. I've come up with a few subcategories with the help of my community members and have just basically, you know, try and categorize various games with some overlap because some do feature in more than one. And hopefully this overview will give you an idea of what solo games are out there. I'm not going to rank them. I'm not going to say, oh, you know, I'm not going to have tons of detail at the bottom of the screen. I mean, there'll be a picture if I can't drag it off the shelf. But otherwise, it's more of a case of I'm just going to talk about them. In terms of timestamps, I can't do every single thing as a timestamp, but what I'll probably do is timestamp the categories. So at least you'll be able to know, you know, when you look in the YouTube description, whereabouts the category is. So without further ado, I'm just going to talk about a bunch of them. So first off, I'm just going to talk about quick and easy. So quick and easy will just be, this is a solo game that I need to be able to just get out quick, done. You know, it's like, shrunk, dunk, done, I'm done. You know, I literally need to kill 15 minutes, if that, maybe. You know, 50 minutes to half an hour in a game. Doesn't want to take too long. And bear in mind for this list, I am talking about the physical copy of the game, not the digital app implementations. I mean, you know, yes, Through the Ages is now like a 60-minute game compared to 4 hours when you play it on the app. But I'm not talking about digital implementation. I'm talking about physical games that you can buy off the shelf. So quick and easy, short and simple. So first off, Friday. Friday is a really easy little game. Freedom and Freeze, I think, did this one. And it's just a very quick little solo deck building game. You know, you have the worst of the worst incompetent Robinson Crusoe characters on your island, and you have to build up your deck by completing these little, kind of like these little missions, these hazard cards, by using various cards to add and subtract from a modifier to beat the card. As you beat the card, it goes into your deck. You go through the whole deck 3 times over while getting hindered by aging cards, which basically hinder you even more. And you've essentially got to tweak your deck in such a way that when you get to the final boss for 2 pirates, you fight them off and, you know, hopefully win the game. Hard as nails. I find this hard as nails to win. But this is a nice one. Small little green box. Fairly easy to get hold of, not very expensive either. And if you like deck builders and you just want a very quick solo one that doesn't have a lot of setup or even rules, to be honest, this is a good one to look out for. Coffee Roaster, I have talked long and hard about this one. The famous reprinted by Stronghold Games. You know, this one is a treasure of mine, one of my favorite pure solo games. And you basically bag building. You draw tokens out of a bag, you tweak your bag in order to fill it full of various bean tokens, and once you're ready, you then pull a certain amount of tokens out of the bag to create your coffee. And each scenario that you do has a different coffee with a different rating you've got to achieve, different prerequisites of like taste and flavor, etc. And it's just a really entertaining and well-produced solo game. I mean, this is a big favorite of mine, and you know, I've banged on about it loads, and finally people can get hold of it. In fact, I think I did a review of it back in January, so check that out. Hostage Negotiator. I think I've done a review of this. I don't know. It could be a while back, but where is that? That's in the other room. Hostage Negotiator is a pure solo dice game. You know, you take control of a negotiator. There is a abductor and there's all sorts of them now with these mini packs with their own little special rules, and they'll have a certain amount of hostages. And what you do is that you play these conversation cards, to try and talk the victim out of it, or at the end of the day, maybe take them out with a sniper shot. And the idea is that you roll dice in order to succeed or fail a card, and depending on your success and failures determines whether some hostages get killed off, or whether you start getting better cards into your hand so that you can like play more powerful effects. And hopefully by the time you go through this terror deck of like negative cards, you get to a point where you've either saved more than half of the hostages or the abductor has been arrested or killed off. It's definitely very lucky because it is a dice-based game, but I've never seen a more thematic dice game in a long time. You know, this one really collects that theme of the hostage negotiation in. I mean, it's pretty hard because a lot of it is down to luck. You know, you have to be good at rolling 5s and 6s a lot. But each abductor has a unique like story behind it, a unique way it starts off, you know, setup differences, and it's just very quick and simple. Get the abductor, terror deck, there's your conversation cards, roll dice, keep going and see what happens. Chances are, you know, you have to, moral questioning notwithstanding, you know, I mean, I won a game the other day and nearly half the hostages were dead. You know, I nearly lost the game because of it. Well, couldn't save them all. You know, if the guy kills one of them off at the start of the game, what else can I do? It's stuff like that, but it does meet for a very cool solo dice game. And then finally, quick and easy, I would say most of the most of the Omniverse games, the little card games like, let me grab it over there actually, it's over there in the corner. Most of these little games would be good for a quick and portable. I mean, most of them are just a deck of cards with maybe a few components. They're also quite portable. But with these, Onirim particularly is just a deck of cards, pretty much. This edition allows you to expand it and tweak it, but the base game is just basically a deck of cards and an objective of get yourself out of a dream world. Very addictive and is essentially like a solitaire-based card game, but quick, simple, and all of these games can be played co-op with 2 players, but usually you'll get these for the solo mode, and there's a few of them on my shelf, and there's a lot more of them besides, so, you know, these are pretty sweet as well. So those are the ones that I would say quick and easy. So going on to something a little bit different, I'll mention quickly portable games. So these are going to be ones that I think are pretty, like, I just need something to take traveling. You know, something nice and small, something, they could be quick. They might be quick, they might be long, but they're portable. You can just get them in a travel bag. And I'm thinking, like I said, there's some overlap. So Friday, very small green box would be fine. The Omniverse games that I mentioned, I mean, this is not a particularly big box. You could fit that in a bag without too much trouble. But I would also like to mention if you can get hold of the AEG version, the old version of Valley of the Kings. Yes, there is the huge deluxe set now. That's obviously not portable, but if you can still get this, the original card game version, secondhand on a bring and buy, or maybe they are still selling it, I'm not sure, then this has got both expansions in it, unsleeved, in one box. And it's only slightly off its thing because I don't think I packaged it well last time, but you could get it to sit flush. Rubber band if you want to. But you buy one of these on its own and it will be perfectly fine. With the 2 expansions, it's even better. But this is a very portable solo game to take away. Granted, it's not the most entertaining solo game out of all the ones I've got, but it's still pretty solid. Then you've got Exit, the Exit game. So pretty much any escape room game will fit this category up to a point. The Unlock games, you kind of have to take the cards out of the box in order to take it with you. The Deckscape's pretty good, and they are just basically a small deck of cards, and the Exit escape room games are just basically a small rectangular box with a bunch of components in. Now, recommend you put a pencil and a pair of scissors in each box if you're going to take it with you, because you're going to need those in a lot of them, but they're small, and the best thing is if you can fit it in your bag to take with you, when you play it, you then chuck all the pieces away because it's disposable. So it already saves you space on the way back to bring back some other small game you might have bought on holiday or some other weird souvenir. And yeah, they work pretty well in that sense. And then finally, I don't know a huge amount in this category about their solo game potential, but most roll and write games will be able to hazard a solo mode, usually because 95% of them are just solitaire games anyway. You know, there'll be ones where it's like, oh, you can play this with up to 8 players. Yeah, and you don't give a monkey's about any other player at the table. You might as well play it solo. Not every single game can be done in that way, but I bet the vast majority of these roll and write games will be able to be played solo, where you simply just go through the motions and do what you like. Although, I do have on the shelf here I thought I had it on the shelf here. So yes, I do. Here we go. This could work. I mean, this is relatively portable. Yeah, this is relatively portable. This is probably my pick of the solo roll and writes. There's a lot of them out there, I'm sure, but this is my pick. If anything, I prefer to play the solo than in multiplayer, because again, multiplayer solitaire. But with the Imperial Settlers roll and write, it's not so much get points. Well, you are getting points, but this one's an engine builder, and a lot of them aren't engine buildings. You draw on the thing and you try and connect dot to dot, or you circle numbers. Here you actually are playing a resource management engine builder game. But the thing I love about this is you've got the pads for the buildings, and you've got a pad of about 48, 50 odd buildings, all unique. So every game is different. And you could play the same one twice or 3 times over and use a completely different strategy. This is definitely my pick if you're going to go for solo roll and writes, but frankly, it's not my genre, so I'm not going to sort of say, oh, this is the good one and the rest are garbage, you know. But if you're a fan of roll and writes, I suggest you give them a look and see. So, those little categories out of the way, the other 4 that I've got, I've kind of separated them out into 4. One of them is AI opponents. So, ones that I can think of where you play against an AI. And then I've got self-improvement, I call it, which sounds a bit wrong in some cases, but this is more the ones where you pretty much are just getting points. There may be a minimum threshold to win, technically, but mainly it's just a case of, right, I got 65 points. Is that good? I'm a master player. Sweet, yes, but I want to be an epic player. I better beat 70. You know, it's stuff like that. They tend to be the Euro games. The objective-based ones are more thematic, more story-based adventure-style games. So this will be a case of survive 10 turns, go kill this monster, go complete this scenario. You know, it's not based on how many points you have, it's meeting a goal condition. And then a little category I've mentioned, which has some overlap, would be control multiple players. So these are the ones where there isn't really an AI mode or a specific solo mode to speak of. It's just a case of control multiple players, control multiple hands. So let's start off with the AI opponents. And the AI opponents will be a case of some automner, well, I'll get onto that later, but you know, a specific dummy player does things based on what you do in the game or based on like a flip of an action card, but essentially it tries to simulate having someone there with you, even though you can't talk to that player unless you are going insane, like me. Isn't that right, Bubbles? But with this one, I mentioned automner. So Stonemaier Games do a lot of these ones. They're now obsessed with the word, and so are other people now. But I think Viticulture was the one that started it off, and Viticulture, great winemaking game, I love it to bits, has an automner which will perform actions based on, you know, what you're doing and what it's doing, and you've got to try and create your wine better than them. It's essentially a race to 25 points. And this one works pretty well. There's a bit of fiddly rules checking, I think, to get the hang of it. It's not like the easiest automner to work with, but it's pretty challenging. I mean, it will accelerate to 25 points without too much trouble if you're not careful, and depending on what you do. But it's a pretty solid one if you want to play that one solo. Scythe has a similar one. Scythe's automner is pretty good. Again, the iconography on the cards I find to be quite like, whoa, hang on a minute, this is like Race for the Galaxy levels of crazy iconography. But once you get the hang of it, again, does a reasonable job of simulating a dummy player, but you're basically just doing your one against one thing, whereas with Scythe, I'm more into the big multiplayer epic games. I don't think the automner is enough for me. Wingspan, though, this one on the other hand, Wingspan does a great job of its automner. This one I actually did a solo play of video, so, you know, when I was doing solo play videos, go check that one out. But with Wingspan, this is a good one. Yeah, the automner cards are very simple. It essentially has like a kind of like an ABCD, like boxing, and depending on what the objective in the round is and what, like, how many eggs it's got, or, you know, what birds it's got, it will do different things, but it's really easy to go through the deck. It's not complicated. I found it straightforward, and you just do your own thing on your board while trying to fend off the objectives. But you can play it in kind of 2 modes. One mode has you, like, just basically going up against it. Another way of doing it, like upping the difficulty, makes it more competitive for the objectives, those end of round ones. This one's definitely a solid one. I mean, if Wingspan is your thing, and for me it definitely is, but you can't get those 2, 3 or 4 players together, worth doing the automner. Honestly, check out my solo play video for a bit more detail. All the Lacerda games, yes, pretty much On Mars, Vinhos, Gallerist, you know, all of those, except for Kanban, although Kanban EV will have a solo mode in it. But all of these ones behind me all have an AI opponent. You play against Lacerda, as it's called in there. Now, these are good. My only issue with these is, A, it's a huge, heavy game. These are a lot to set up, a lot of rules to remember. It's quite a bit of admin on the board. And there's the big problem. You know, when I want to play a solo game, I don't want to take forever playing it. With these ones, you will take a while playing it. You'll have to remember the rules of how to play the wretched game. And another thing, the Lacerda bot is bone-crushingly hard. You know, and I'm probably going to be mentioning that on a few other games on these lists. But yeah, oh my god, they will kick your butt on a regular basis. I'm not even sure some of them are even possible to beat unless you have mastered the game. They are that hard. But if you're into the Lacerda games and you want a huge, heavy challenge, by all means, give the Lacerda ones a bell, because none of them are bad. They're all good, like AI opponents, but they're just really, really hard. Really, really involved. Edge of Darkness, an AEG card game where it takes on the sort of Mystic Veil card crafting thing. You essentially play with a dummy player who, based on an action card, will do certain things. They're called the Voiceless Guild, and you do what you do in the game effectively as a two-player game, except the Voiceless Guild is a dummy player that you're trying to beat. You can even throw it into a multiplayer game as a dummy player as well. However, I've yet to meet anybody who cares about doing that. You know, it's the last thing I care about, throwing dummy players into a multiplayer game. You know, I've got the other players. That's good. I don't need to throw in an imaginary friend all of a sudden. So, Edge of Darkness is a very good one with that. Architects of the West Kingdom, you play against one of two different AI opponents, and this is a very good one actually. Very simple, very easy automaton to work with, and it flips over an action card. It will do things based on where its workers are and what you're doing, and you've essentially got to beat it in points. It's 2 difficulty levels, of which this is the one flaw with it. You're talking really easy or really hard. I didn't have much trouble beating the basic mode in it, but wow, is it hard to beat the hard mode in it. So it's quite a difficulty jump. But this is a nice way to play Architects solo because you are basically playing the same rules as the game. It's a good learning experience, but you do have the AI automaton to actually keep you busy and keep you on check. I've got to do this as fast as possible. It's a pretty solid one and easy to learn, and this is already one of my favourite worker placement games. I don't know how Raiders of the North Sea plays. There is a mini solo add-on you can get for it. I don't know the best way to get hold of it. I think you have to go to Garphill Games directly to get it off them, but I have not had the pleasure of playing it, so hopefully somebody in the comments could give us an idea of how good that one is. I would like to try it though. Let's see, I might have to split this into 2 videos at this rate. In fact, I probably will. Right, Teotihuacan, the giant board and dice in contemporary building game. Again, this one has an AI opponent that will perform actions based on what's going on, and you've obviously got to maneuver your dice around the edge and do all those same Euro mechanics. Quite challenging, so a good difficulty rating, and done by David Turksey, who basically is now the name with solo modes these days. But I will say with this one is that it's a little fiddly to run through. You know, you've got this little mini pyramid of actions, and depending on which one you do, you swap it round, or it comes down the pyramid, or it goes at the top, and it's just the rules for the solo mode are quite involved. You know, this is not oh, I know how to play the main game, I can do the solo mode without even blinking. No, you need to spend a bit of time with the solo mode. That's my only bugbear with it, though. It's a decent solo mode, just requires a bit of admin throughout it. Not to mention a bucket ton of table space. It is pretty intensive. Cooper Island. This one I actually played the other day, actually. I've only played it once, and it's a little add-on deck. You have to get it from the site again. You play against the dog. Somehow that works. But you essentially have the action deck, you flip it over, they'll go on certain worker spaces, and you try and build up your peninsula and get more points. However, remember what I said about bone crushingly hard? This one, bone, muscle, face, eyeball, testicles, you name it, it will crush them.
I don't think any of us expected him to say that.
It is insanely hard. Ridiculous. And this is on the easy mode. easy mode. There's 4 levels of difficulty in this. Now, in terms of the admin, it's not too bad. It is a small deck of cards, and the cards take you step by step of how to set the game up and how to do it. And the AI is not that difficult to do. It's a relatively small outlay on the table, except the fact that you've got to have some of its player pieces out and then another third colour of doing stuff. That's a bit annoying. But oh my god, the easy mode will kick your butt in this. As if it wasn't hard enough to play this game well. Even if you do play it well, there's a good chance this thing will beat you. It can beat you, it can get like 35 points without breaking a sweat on easy mode. Most people who play this game don't even get to 35 points. The winner of a game might get close to 40 if the stars have aligned for them. But to not break a sweat and get 35 on easy mode, that's ridiculous. And that is my off-put with the solo mode in this. It's easy to run, and if you love Cooper Island, then definitely give it a shot. But I think it's just too hard. It's like the guy from Saving Private Ryan, it's like, just give us a chance, you give us a chance. Just give us a chance, you son of a... It's like that. You are constantly crying that out in this game because it will just pummel you. Worse so than the Lacerda boss. I do think it's worse than that. All Mind Clash games. Mind Clash games are Dracarion, Anachrony, and Cerebria. I'm kind of lumping these together because I've barely touched these solo modes. They are good solo modes, but I can't remember a huge amount about them other than you have the AI opponent in each one. This kind of goes along the same sort of lines though as the Lacerda ones, where it's a lot of admin, it's a lot of different rules that you've got to learn. They're already like 3-hour Euro games as it is, so it's already a table hog and a big intensive experience. But I will say I think they are easier than the Lacerda bots. I think the Lacerda bots are pretty difficult, whereas those ones, for some reason, just feel a little bit easier. Not like easy. I mean, they're going to kick your butt on a regular basis, but they feel like I'm in with a chance. I don't feel like they're just unnecessarily getting points for free for doing diddly squat. So they're pretty solid as well. But again, 3-hour plus intensive heavy Euro games are not really the thing I want to play solo because I've got to relearn all the rules, get it all set up, find the time to play them. Sometimes people want something a little bit quicker and simpler. Gaia Project. I've kind of gone off this game. I'm not a big fan of it anymore. Terra Mystica I liked for a bit. It's just too dry and too heavy for me. But there's no denying that Gaia Project is a solid solo game for many players. It's completely themeless. It's a total point salad. It is just basic, well, not even point salad, I guess. It's just a big, themeless, heavy, abstract Euro game. But you've got a lot of different paths to victory in it. You've also got a lot of different player powers because you play one of the alien factions and you play against another alien faction, and they've got different starting setups, different strategies. And certainly, if you want variety in your game, and this heavy sort of Euro is one that you like, definitely give Gaia Project a look. I will give it respect. I don't dislike the game. I'm just not that faced about it anymore, but it's highly popular for a lot of people, particularly the heavy Eurogame fans, and so you should give it a look if that's up your alley. Maracaibo wasn't as big of a fan of this in solo mode. I mean, I love the multi-use cards, but I think this game's better multiplayer. Because the solo mode, you essentially play against this little AI that goes around the map and goes to certain places, hoovers up quests and various stuff, and might end the round quickly for you. But in doing so, you're playing through the campaign mode, which is kind of pointless. The multiplayer game is pretty solid. It's about a 7 out of 10 for me. But the campaign is just not necessary. It's not an interesting story, and the story doesn't even make sense when you consider that each lap of the board is meant to be 10 years, and yet somehow you're just meeting people on your second round. It's like, seriously, how does time work in this game? But it's fine. The AI is not too difficult to maneuver around, so it is not a big addition to the rule set, but I just think because the story is weak, I don't find myself wanting to play this one solo as much. I'd rather just play it as a 2-player. If I want less players doing it. But then I'd also be happy to play it 3 and 4-player. This one, I don't think the solo is as good as the multiplayer on it. But, some people will disagree. Star Wars Outer Rim, though. Star Wars Outer Rim, the replacement for Firefly. Yeah, I know, sacrilege to some people.
You're going to burn in a very special level of hell.
And I love Firefly, as in the series and the film. But the game, too long, too much table hogging space, too lucky. Star Wars Outer Rim still has a fair bit of luck to it, but it's much more condensed. I mean, a couple of hours, you should be able to get. You should 2.5 hours. You should be able to get a multiplayer game of it done as long as you haven't got slow players. But a solo game doesn't take that long, and you've got that Star Wars Outer Rim stuff in the box. I mean, if you like the Mandalorian and Han Solo and all that bounty hunter stuff, then this is definitely the one for you. In fact, oh yeah. Fantasy Flight, where's the Mandalorian expansion to Star Wars Outer Rim? That would be good. I'd like to see that. If you haven't checked out the series, go watch it on Disney Plus. Really good. But with this one, you've got the different characters. So I can be Bosk, and he can be Han Solo, and Han Solo will have a specific way of playing the game, and so will all the different bounty hunters, and each one works differently. So you've got to come up with a different strategy to beat each one and play each one. But it's a really good story-based game, but as much as this kind of fits onto a later, well, it's not really objective based. No, this is an AI opponent. You've got to get more points than the AI opponent, although it's more of a race. So yeah, you've got to get to 15 fame before they do, but it's definitely an AI opponent. I mean, it is reacting to what's on the board and what's going on. And it's pretty solid, actually. I really like it. Small Islands, the Carcassonne potential killer that I mentioned in the previous review. Go check that out. This one has an AI action deck that basically dictates how the map builds up, when they want to put out the houses to score points, and what objectives they're going for. And it's quite good because you can't necessarily predict how the map's going to build up, and obviously, like in the multiplayer, how the map is created has a direct effect on what you're trying to do and the tactics you employ. Not too difficult to employ. It's a relatively simple game. The solo mode's pretty simple to play, and you've got multiple modes of difficulty. There's a good amount of replay value in there. It's an underrated classic, I think, this one. Go check it out. Two more before I move on to a different category, or possibly check to see whether I should do this in multiple videos, which I think I probably will at this rate. Villagers. Villagers has you play against the Duchess, I think, or is it the Queen? It's basically a royal figure, and the AI figure doesn't really care about building up chains. It's more, I've got a bucket load of villager cards and I'm scoring points for various villagers. But obviously it's nicking stuff from the row, it's taking stuff, it's speeding up the game, and based on what they get, they could get quite a lot of points. This one's a pretty solid solo mode, actually, because villagers, I think, is better with less players anyway. And you still get the whole thing of, right, I'm going to draft this, and I'm going to build up these cool chains. Nice, simple drafting game. But I think it works pretty well. It's a challenge. It's definitely not easy. The only problem I have with this, and I'm more forgiving in this because it's a shorter game, is that the whole idea is that you basically draw from the deck a lot of times in order to see what the Countess gets. I think it's the Countess, actually. And they score points based on like the gold value of some of the cards. You might just draw a bunch of high gold value cards randomly and they get a ton of points for it. That just seems a little bit too swingy for me. But it is a relatively short solo game, so I'm a little more forgiving. But yeah, there have been times where literally just bad draws from the deck have screwed me right over in it. But still, pretty solid. And finally, not a fan of this one at all, but I should mention it. Trismegistus. Trismegistus is board and dice, and this is the alchemy heavy Euro. This will burn your brain to a crisp heavy Euro game. It is like, oh my god, and that's just trying to understand the rules in it. But the solo mode has an AI opponent, which you go up against and try and beat in points. But I found that even though there was multiple modes of difficulty, I found that this was stupidly easy, like really easy to beat, to the point where I think it's actually partially a broken system. Because I am not good at Trismegistus. No way am I good at this game. Yet somehow I was able to, on my first attempt with the AI, to roast it, like absolutely roast the AI, like it did not stand a chance. And then I thought, all right, let's try on slightly harder difficulties. And it still was pretty straightforward to do. Like, to get any challenge out of it, you need to play on, like, the two hardest levels of difficulty. Which is kind of odd for a game that is so hard to learn. And again, bit of a table hog, quite a lot to learn. You're going to have to constantly rules check in this. It's not the most easiest automata to work with, but you know, a lot of that is just down to the fact you've got to remember how all these rules work. So this one I wasn't as big of a fan of. I don't think you should grab this one for its solo mode, but you know, if you're a fan of the game, then maybe it's something you want to check out. Okay, after checking the timer very quick, I think I'm going to go with doing this in multiple videos because I've got more stuff to go through, and I've already done like 3 out of 6 categories, and yes, there's going to be some overlap, but there isn't a ton of it. And I just think, yeah, I don't want to keep you guys for watching a whole massive video. I'm already up to like the 30-minute mark here on this video. I need to keep them relatively streamlined. So that's it for me for now, but I'll put these out in relatively quick succession. So I look forward to you in the second video, and I'll probably try to just do one more video, you know, one more 20 to 30-minute video to wrap up the rest. But hope this is to your liking. I hope this is giving you an overview of some solo games you might want to check out. And I will give the other categories and some honourable mentions in the next one. So take care, and I'll see you soon.